Felix here, and welcome to this pre-morning live stream. Let me just check the mics working. Yeah, looks like it. We are back in our usual surroundings. We're joined by the master of it all, Winston. So it's going to be a good one. And I'm super excited to walk you through what's happening here today. I want to walk you through 3 or 4 things. One, this is straight out from Goldman Sachs, like literally the probably smartest investment bank out there. They're saying why most stocks are actually going to lose you money in this market right now. Literally, most stocks will lose you money in this market right now. That's from Goldman Sachs. I'll explain that to you and what we can do about that. I'll also tell you the one stock everybody's buying, literally the one stock everybody's buying, the next sector rally that you definitely don't want to miss. And before we jump into that, first, I want to teach you something that the moment you learn it, not only are you going to be more clear on what to do, more importantly, you will forever be able to implement a better strategy, have smaller losses, bigger wins, and therefore build wealth for yourself. Because what do you really want? What do most of you really want? Who wants to retire? Who wants to retire? Put an R in the chat if you want to retire. So I'm going to teach you the strategy that Wall Street uses and has used for absolutely decades on Saturday, so that all you 9-to-5ers can speed up those retirement plans. And it's literally just to help you guys out. We'll take 1,000 people for free. We'll teach you. It'll be live, and we'll probably go for like an hour and a half, 2 hours or something like that. I'll answer all your questions, and I'll give you the actual criteria that the most successful stock investors look at, and that separates for you all the noise. Why should I buy this? What about this? Why is Tesla up and down? All that noise, from actually making good decisions, really good decisions, because there are a lot of freaking opportunities in the market every single week, and most people miss them because they don't know what to look for. So if you want to join me on that, join me live on Saturday. There's a link down below. I'll put it into the chat as well, and I'll literally teach you how to pick great stocks. Literally, that's the promise. And it'll help you retire sooner. It'll help you retire better if you already are. And it's Stephen, I saw you live just. I put a screenshot of what you wrote yesterday because it really was inspiring, and I appreciate you sharing that again yesterday. It's like people like this that inspire me to do what we do here. Stephen, who's live with us here, he says, look, in January, I'll retire, mostly thanks to Winston. Winston, you take all the credits for that? Winston takes all the credits for that. Obviously, the credits go to Stephen. And he's basically retiring because he now knows what to do with his money. And you weren't the only one yesterday. How do you pronounce that? Tina Tyne? I'm not sure. He says, thanks to you, I've made more money in the market than my job. First time this month. So for the first time ever, making more money from your money rather than from your job, right? Golds. And that's what it's ultimately all about. And once you get there, and it doesn't happen overnight, I'm not saying that, but there's a very, very clear path to it. That's ultimately what gets us to freedom. So if you want to join us on Saturday, you know what to do. There's a link down below. I'll put it in the chat here for you as well. felixfriends.org/webinar, and I'll teach you, and I'll keep teaching you until there's nobody left to teach, because ultimately that's really what the fun is here. That's what the impact is here. So let's jump into the day and the noise, because the noise, well, still matters, but here it is. felixfriends.org/webinar, Saturday, 10 a.m. New York time. Who's going to join me? If you're going to join me, put another R in the chat so we can see you actually want to retire sooner, retire better. And actually, there's a little bonus there as well. We'll talk about that in a moment a bit as well, but I'm going to walk you through the top gold stocks, because I think gold, precious metals are a huge opportunity at the moment. And it's probably going to continue to be like that for the rest of the year. And again, most people don't know where to start, right? They just don't know. They're going to buy these overpriced gold coins or something. They don't really know what to do with it. So we'll walk you through that. Lots of R's here. Brilliant, my friends. George and Nancy and Wally and Alex and Christina and Peter and Sarah and Christiana. And there's a lot of R's here. It's Saturday live, exclusive to members only. It's exclusive to anybody who wants to actually learn how to make their money, make money for them. Literally anybody at all. It's completely free. So come and join me there. This is out from Goldman Sachs, Justin. If you don't believe me on that, here's the full report from them. And one of the things they're saying is that market breadth. What the heck is market breadth? Market breadth is basically how many stocks are actually going up. So how many stocks are going up? very, 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 very few. The majority of the market is doing that sort of thing. And then there are a couple of outliers and they're going to the freaking moon, and that's how we make money. So if you buy the index, buy these big ETFs, what are you buying? You're buying everything. So you're basically doing that, right? You're doing nothing, absolutely nothing. And if you miss all these individual golden nuggets out there, well, you don't really basically get anywhere. What is retail buying? Well, Tesla, Nvidia, SPY, Palantir, QQQ, CRWV, HIMS, AVGO, TQQQ, and Apple is what they're mostly buying, but mostly it's Tesla, Nvidia, and then the indices and a bit of Palantir. This is what you guys have been buying apparently on the 3rd of June. And they're basically saying retail is becoming more and more important, and therefore it's more and more important to understand the retail stocks people are buying, right? And we look at some individual stocks. What to say about CRWV? We're going to have a look at that in a moment. But before we do that, here is sort of, a mini Winston on lots of gold. Winston, where did Winston go? He went off the chart, off the charts here. There he is. Gold. What's going on with gold? Gold is just making us a lot of money. Actually, before we jump into gold, the first buy recommendation from Goldman Sachs. I'm not telling you to buy it. Goldman Sachs is telling their institutional clients this looks like really, really, really juicy for 2 reasons. Let me get rid of a couple of these lines here. Actually, let me get rid of even that one there just to make it. Can we get rid of that one? It wants to stay. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at IWM, which is just underperforming the market, right? It hasn't done a freaking thing since like 2020. It's trading at 2020 levels, literally. So just small caps going nowhere. Why? Well, small caps have a tough time with more regulation and high taxes and an economy that's a little on the iffy side. But what are we seeing here? Well, we're seeing this sort of resistance level here. And what do I mean by that? I literally mean the highs. See all these highs here? That's your resistance. That sits at about $210. So there's a resistance here around about $210 that we need to watch out for. But there is more. There's a lot of lines that are kind of congregating here, which is why Goldman Sachs has spotted it. And I was telling you about this yesterday, right? Before Goldman Sachs put this out. But, they do get there eventually. So that line there, let me make that a... let's make it red and let's make it dotted. So what can you see? That's your trend line. And you can see that, we kept bouncing off it, but we have just bounced above it. Can you see that here? We have bounced above the trend line. We're facing the resistance zone here. And that's all pretty positive. So we break through that meaningfully, that sort of 210 level, we might be in for a bigly IWM bounce. Slight fly in the ointment from my perspective. We still need to take out the 215, which is where the institutions sell, and that's also where the 150-day moving average line sits. And if that's all complete mumbo jumbo to you, that's cool. Come and learn with us on Saturday, and I'll break it all down for you here. So on that note, let me just get our chat back here. There it is. Inverse head and shoulder, potentially, yes, exactly. And that's that, right? Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. But you need to break through that blue line here that I'm drawing in red. You need to break through that. You break through that, and you potentially get that beautiful, shiny breakout that Winston's so incredibly excited about. So what ticker is Felix talking about? This is IWM. Can you not see that in the top of the screen? You should be able to see that in the top of the screen. Maybe if you're on a phone, it zooms in for you automatically, but it says IWM here at the top, which is the small cap ETF, one of the biggest ones, probably the biggest one out there. How about you in both KLL and Hong Kong in 2 days in a row, Philip? They have this amazing thing that they've invented, Philip. It's flying things, and you can step into it and you can fly around. So yes, I fly around. I was in a third city as well, actually, yesterday. If you missed that, we get around quite a lot. The Winston pattern. Righty ho. So we wanted to move on to this little fella, right? And his gold stack. And what that is all about is, well, actually, not gold today, but silver. Silver has finally broken out. Silver is developing acne. No, silver has just done something we have not seen silver do in a very, very, very long time. So we had these highs here in that kind of zone. And guess what we've done? We have gone pre-market, at least. Obviously, it depends on where we close, but we have gone to the moon here. We're up 4.5 freaking % on silver. Someone's buying a lot of silver. And was that predictable? Someone says, oh, in hindsight, everything is, right? Well, that gap up here on Monday 2nd, a pretty good volume. So that was kind of what drove it. But you are seeing a second gap up here. So anybody who wasn't convinced of silver, this might well convince you. We're seeing a similar story on platinum. Now, platinum is a Russia play. Russia is the largest exporter or producer, or one of at least, of platinum. And if we get more sanctions on the Russians, then platinum prices might go up significantly. I had a call option open on platinum for quite a few months at the end of last year, and nothing bloody happened. But it just has. So again, here we have two beautiful breakouts. That was the first one. Second one is the one up here. So very, very, very bullish on a lot of the precious metal spaces here. Gold still looking pretty decent as well this morning, up 0.5%, continuing that monstrous rally. There are some individual gold stocks that I personally prefer over owning the gold ETF. I'll teach you all those, and I'll give you those on Saturday if you join me at felixprehn.org/webinar, which is our little educational setup where you actually learn the rules that actually make me money. So you think nickel will do the same? Only thing I hate about the Russell is it's 2,000 that are targeted. Yeah, and I mean there are small cap. There's small cap tech, I think, isn't there? Small cap. What's the tech ETF for small caps? Small cap tech ETF. Small cap. PSCT, do we have that in here? PSCT, sounds like a disease, doesn't it? Yeah, this is something like that. That could be smaller. There is also an IWM, sort of a small cap 600, I think, which could be worth looking at. So yeah, I think similar story here, right? You just break out over that pattern a little bit. It actually looks a bit more bullish than where we already are. So it's a little bit more leading there than that. But yeah, good point. Putin is pushing. Yeah, Putin is pushing. Why are people still asking about AMD? Yeah, that's a very good question. Because they haven't learned the freaking rules. But it's getting better. It's getting a lot better. 119 looks starting to look pretty good. Well, there's still something we're missing though. And if you want to learn what that is, join me on Saturday. Your video titles are killing me. Are they killing you softly though? You know, I hope so. So that's kind of big story there. So come and join me on Saturday to learn what precious metal stocks we're actually going to be buying, because we're buying quite a lot of them and they're making us quite a lot of money, which is kind of nice, isn't it? Now, what about this little chap? Amazon to launch humanoid robot delivery trials, and which basically means there'll be a self-driven van with a robot inside who will pick up a parcel and then throw it at you. And that means you no longer need people in delivery. And that will reduce costs of delivery tremendously and put a load of people out of work, which is the unfortunate side effect. But yeah, this is actually happening. Robots are actually coming. And they're coming for your delivery jobs. If you work in logistics, learn to do something else. Maybe how to manage your money. That will be the easiest thing that I've certainly done. So big deal. And this is not going to happen just to Amazon. Everyone's going to be doing this. Obviously, Tesla is up there. But yeah, Amazon is big into robots. I haven't seen the humanoid ones yet, but they do have something close to 1 million robots. Most of them are pretty simple creatures. But yeah, definitely pretty important stuff. Like newspaper deliveries in the old days, precisely, except that it'll be a robot doing it. And if you just think that through, right? Vans with robots, I mean, maybe drones next, right? That'll just drive into the neighborhood and just drop all that stuff off and then buzz off again. It'll be an incredible future. That's the way that's working. And then there is this. Elon Musk saying, call your senator, call your congressman. Bankrupting America is not okay. Kill the big, beautiful bill. So Elon seems to be, well, disappointed with politics, disappointed with Trump, and is being very vocal about it. And what does the stock chart do? What's Tesla doing as a result? Well, Tesla's down 2.8%. Well, they did also have some weak international sales numbers. That might have something to do with it. But yeah, I think politics, I used to be very political when I was a teenager. And then I realized that basically you don't really make an impact. You just become corrupt. So I decided to quit the whole thing and never really bother with it. And of course, everybody has political views, but I would urge you to put your political views aside. And the time you're going to talk about it, think about it, read about it, talk and think and read about money instead, because that's actually going to give you a good life. And politicians, I mean, think about democracy as a concept, right? And it's the best concept that we have. You have voters who do what? Well, they elect, so they choose. And Winston is twitching here. He's listening and he's twitching. He does that when he dreams. He's having dreams. He's chasing something. What are you chasing, Winston? Gains in gold stocks, probably. They elect politicians. So the politician, say you have two politicians. Say you have two kinds of politicians. You have one who says, I will cut spending. Right? And then you have another one who will say, I'll give you money. Right? Which one are you going to vote for? Let's be honest. Which one are you going to vote for? You're going to always vote for the guy who'll give you money. Because we're selfish creatures, at least the majority of us are, and that's just the way it works. So politicians will always give away as much money as possible to the people who elect them. And then they'll also try to pocket some in the process, because humans are greedy, right? So how can you fix that? I mean, I really don't know how you fix that, honestly. I think, actually, I have one idea, that for every 1% surplus, let me see if this is popular, we pay every politician $1 million, actually make it $10 million a year. So if they're running a 2% surplus, everybody in Congress and the Senate gets $20 million a year. What do you think about that? Do you think that will work? Maybe that will work. So you just bribing the officials directly, that might work very significantly. Maybe that'll work. But at the moment, there is no incentive for them to have a balanced budget. Just makes you unpopular. And if you run big, beautiful, bloated deficits and everybody gets money, then, well, the politicians get money, the politicians get jobs from all the special interest groups who lobby them, right, for whatever money that they want. And everybody is a winner, except for, in the long term, the country goes down the drain, right? That corrupts the process. Congress has a bloat preference. Yeah, I mean, I don't really think, I mean, there has never been a system that worked, right? I mean, look at the Roman Empire, right? That went out of business because of basically corruption and infighting. It seems that every great country seems to go down that route. So yeah, I must say I'm disappointed. This is my personal opinion with this bill. I think it's like Trump said, it's a pork-filled bill. Sorry, not Trump said, Elon said. But I don't really care. I'm not going to spend any time reading about it, listening much about it. I'm just saying to you that this is what it is. Try not to care too much and just focus on how you make money for yourself, because that's the one thing you can control. You can control the fate of you and your family and your, for everyone's, and that's really all that ultimately matters, and all that great and good and stuff. It's very nice. It's brilliant if people have that drive. But if the richest man in the world, who owns the biggest social, or one of the biggest social media platforms in the world, who's clearly very smart, he made all his own money, can't impact the process, then I don't think there's a great deal of hope. You're making me think about the Roman Empire again. Yeah. That's so you're nihilist. That's perhaps a little extreme. I think a realist with politicians is that they will ultimately. You got to look at incentives, right? What's the incentive? And that's what I look at when I look at a company, right? What's the incentive for management to do a good job, for example? SoFi, for example, I like the incentive, right? The CEO is going to get paid a tremendous amount of money if he actually manages to get the share price up. Hasn't so far, but if he does. With a lot of stocks, that isn't the case. CEOs get paid for mergers. CEOs get paid for activity. But politicians basically get paid for pleasing people with lots of money. Because once they get out of politics, those people will give them jobs and pay them for speeches and all that kind of stuff. So it's just corruption. But it'll always be there unless you come up with a bigger incentive, and there isn't one. Right? So Scott says they have to pass this one, and Scott, I appreciate your loyalty and your perspective and your political views. It's all completely fine, but they don't have to do anything, right? The hope, the promises that this bill will somehow generate so much economic growth that it'll get the US out of this morass. But it's a 1,000-page bill. It's therefore a pork-filled bill. Otherwise, it would be 50 pages or 100 pages. It wouldn't be 1,000 pages. Anything that's 1,000 pages long is full of money for special interest. It's just the way it works, right? What have those bloody Romans ever done for us exactly? Running water, that kind of thing. If America goes bankrupt, what happened to the stock market? See, America won't really go bankrupt because look at Japan. America can, so you have two parts to the government. You have the government, right? And they basically can issue debt. And that debt will do what? Well, that debt will pay, that'll pay for, whatever politicians promise, right? So let's call it services loosely, retirement planning, all that kind of stuff, right? So who's going to buy the debt? Well, you need buyers. Eventually you might think, well, maybe there'll be no buyers. Well, there is a little beautiful thing called the Fed, and the Fed can simply buy the debt. That's what Japan does. So the central bank buys all the government debt. It's a Ponzi scheme in a way, but no one's going to pull the plug, so it actually works. So the Fed basically buys the money, buys the debt. How do they buy the debt? Well, they just print money. So they print dollars. With that dollars, they buy the debt, and then that debt pays for all the services. It's sort of a weird kind of freeloading sort of thing. What does that do? Well, there's one very, very, very clear impact. And if you've been to Japan, that's how it works. So what happens? It causes massive asset inflation. And you've witnessed that since COVID, because that was the same thing. So what does it do? The rich get richer. And if you are living on a salary, right, the salaried crowd who doesn't own stocks, doesn't own real estate, salaried, if that was a word, people, well, they get poorer, significantly poorer. And that's what happens in Japan. So you have people who are very wealthy, who own buildings and lots of real estate and lots of stocks and lots of bonds and all that stuff, and they are very, very well off, and they're going to do nothing. And then you've got the working classes who are still earning the same salary as 30 years ago, and everything else went up 1,000 times, and they were basically poor. So that is likely the way we're going to go in the US, and let's face it, Europe and most Western societies. So what are you therefore going to do? Focus on owning as many assets as possible that actually generate income, because the money that gets printed is going to flow into those assets, and it's going to make them more expensive. So Buy stocks. That's basically what I would do. Become the rich people. Yeah, that's the only answer. So you can rant and rave about how unfair it is, and it's unfair. It sucks. It makes no sense in many ways. But just become the rich people. That's the answer. So it's the only solution. It's the only thing you can control. I mean, you can go and protest and you can do all that kind of stuff. Sail to Gaza or something, but you'll have no freaking impact. The only impact you can actually have is what you can do. So what can you do? Well, you can become an amazing investor. It's actually very, very easy. How do you do that? Well, join me on Saturday. I'll teach you. It's pretty easy. Let's eat cake. Yeah, that's it. Let's eat cake. They're going to make cake. Let's eat it, right? Tell us about the Weimar Republic. That was a little different. That was like runaway inflation. This isn't runaway inflation. This is on the surface of it. Your food prices and all, they'll go up a few percent a year, but it's not about that. When the government tells you inflation is a couple of percent, well, they are right and wrong, but they're right about sort of expenses, but they're not telling you that the stock market's gone up 25% last year, 25% the year after, the year before. So the stock market is over 50% up, which means rich people got over 50% richer the last 2 years. Well, did your salary go up 50%? No. Therefore, you got poorer by comparison. It's a harsh reality, but it is a reality. So you better participate in the stock market rally, because that's ultimately the only thing that's going to make you wealthy. And everything else will just, the divide will just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? It already is, but it's going to get bigger and bigger. Right, so let's talk stocks. All right, that's probably a good one. Let's talk stocks. Pre-market is looking pretty decent, actually. Mostly tech stocks are doing all right. Let me share my screen with you here. Only Tesla is down for clearly political reasons, which makes absolutely no freaking sense whatsoever. We've looked at the small cap rally here, which is looking decent potentially. It's a little early. Silver is having a party. Palladium is having a Russian party. Lots of booze and vodka there. AMD is starting to look pretty good, weirdly, for me to say that, right? But it's true. Let's have a quick look at Tesla. Feel free to ask me questions as well. Can we have a stop loss for aftermarket? Nope, doesn't exist. You just got to deal with it. There is some risk, my friend. There is some risk. It's like crossing the road. There's a chance you might get hit by a truck. It's fairly low likelihood, but it'll happen occasionally. Tesla is dropping below the 150 here. That's purple line, the 150 moving average line. That is not good. So that is politics and a little bit international sales. We got a bit sidetracked. Yes, we did. We occasionally, that happens to the best of us. Estee Lauder. Right. What's your favorite lipstick, gentlemen? So this is a stock that is one of the greatest money destroyers since lipstick was invented, down 81%, which I would say is a textbook example of why we have a stop, right? Because if you sold up here at $332, yeah, you were still down 9%, but you missed out on the next 80% drawdown, right? Which was probably a good thing. Michael the Burry bought it, but we don't know if he still owns it. We don't know why or any of that. And it's sort of at a spot where it's starting to consolidate. It's wanting to break out, but it is still hanging around the 150-day moving average line, which is sort of, the rough kids. Still hanging out with those, still injecting a little bit of heroin every once in a while, but it's trying to get clean. So let's give it a clean close above 70. And we're talking. That's where I would start looking at that. And then you're gonna want some volume as well. Again, we haven't seen any of that. So some of the media is talking about an FSD crash, yeah, which is literally on an FSD, which is like a year or two old. That was Bloomberg who kicked that off. Who's somebody who hates Elon Musk with a passion. So some weird personal feud there. Well, Bloomberg wants to be president. And I suppose he doesn't like Trump and doesn't like Elon helped him and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what it's really about. But there we are. Ding, ding, ding. All right, our bell, I think, still not working, is it? Is it? Can you hear that? Can you hear that? I'm not sure you can hear that. I think you can hear that. That's amazing. You can actually hear the big, beautiful, fat bell. There we go. I think we managed to trick the filtering thingy, right? Because I actually listened to you the other day, and I know you can't hear a thing. You still can't hear it? Oh, bloody hell. Over here, it's very, very, very loud. But I'm not sure if it's that loud on your front. Right, so is it too late for Hood? Hood. I'd say it's a little extended. Yeah, I'd say it's a little extended. It's not where I would buy. I don't try to chase things late. So not much of the dinging. You still don't get it. Okay. All right. We're going to have to do some sort of sound test setup just for bells, I think. Much better bellage today, says Philip. Appreciate that. I still don't think you're going to get the full sort of sound effect there. I'll listen back to it and see if this is improved. Winston doesn't seem too perturbed by the whole thing, does he? Winston, you all right with it? You don't mind the bell, do you? Nah, there's a racket going on here. Make Sweden great again. The dollar is going down. Well, isn't that a pretty beautiful thing? It means you can buy cheap dollars. Just buy more cheap dollars, keep investing. In the long run, the dollar going down isn't going to make much of a difference. I think in the long run, it'll go back up. The Europeans, the Eurocrats, the commies of Europe have just cut interest rates, I think for the 8th time in a row, which is going to really piss Trump off because obviously the Fed isn't cutting. Move to the back of the room, climb out of the window, and then ring the bell. We'll try that. Use a virtual bell. We might have to stoop that low. Yes, I'm afraid we might have to stoop that low. It's not where I want to go. Digital bells. I mean, who ever heard of such a thing? We could try a gong. I was thinking that. We'll get the deeper gong might work. MP materials. Well, the March executive order around basically rare earths in the US should have an impact, shouldn't they, Winston? Winston says yes, they should definitely have an impact. And the fact that China appears not to be selling the US any or enough rare earths might make MP materials a little bit of a play here again. But notice where it's trading. It's trading basically at the same level it's been trading at since February 2025. So this isn't really much of a breakout at present. It also fails a couple of our actual rules. So I wouldn't be too excited about it. Would be no, Winston. What do you think? He says, don't rush into things. I think that's what he's saying. LVMH, our Frenchies with the Chinese bags that they make. Sorry, did I say that out loud? Actually, we don't have French stocks in here because we have taste and standards. Now, LVMH is actually in many ways a brilliant company. On LVMHF, we should have that, right? LVMHF. We don't have the OTC ticker either. Okay, all right. So it's traded in Paris, but I'll look at the OTC, and that's had a bit of a clobbering. Basically, Asian customers buying a lot less, plastic bags with cherries on them for $10,000. It's hitting them a little bit hard. And then there's a lot of controversy around where these are actually made, which is a good question because there are apparently 50 people in Paris who allegedly make 10,000 bags a year. I'm not making these numbers up, but you get the idea. Now, one thing to bear in mind with LVMH, it is mostly a booze company, at least traditionally. Does own the best brands in the world, so I would expect that they will bounce back. But at the moment, it's looking like a dead dodo. So I would avoid at all, if at all possible. Smash the like button. We've got 3,000 people like and 400 likes. That's a bit like how Elon feels this morning, isn't he? Very unloved by everybody. What else we got in here? Gold NBIS. So if I look at NBIS, Nibius Group, which is looking pretty good. looking pretty good. Just a question of, is it going to get some volume? I think that's really what I would look for there. ACHR is suffering. Yeah, it continues to sell off. Looks like it wants to go back to $9, doesn't it? So we'll see. We'll see. Funny how everybody wants Felix to check their stocks. Yeah, it's true. And really, I mean, there's a simple solution to this. Join me. Like, think about how much time you have. So if you join me on Saturday for like an hour and a half, you'll know all the rules and you never have to tune in again. I mean, think about the relief if I have to listen to that guy talk, drivel in the morning. So what else have we got here? We've got Celsius. How's our friend Celsius doing? Our friend Celsius wants to break out, doesn't it? But it hasn't quite yet. But it does look rather textbook, doesn't it? For our friends who know the rules, this is sort of textbook stuff here, right? Textbook stuff here. And volume picking up a little, but not enough. So we'll see. We'll see. Conditional orders are there for a reason. We love your drivel. Thanks, Brent. Just go through your buy list. Felix and coffee every day. Thanks for joining me, Jason. Tesla is touching support. It's not as long as it's not touching anybody inappropriately. Yeah, here we go. So support sits at 320. We're going to have a look at that on a minute chart. So how does that work? Well, the support line is where market makers have to buy Tesla. Why? Because it's their hedging flow. They're sort of hedge funds are hedged, so they have to buy at certain levels. Maybe they're short the stocks, they have to buy it, or it might be some sort of options-related thing more likely. But yeah, they bought a little, but we're still going down here as we're 6 minutes into the market. So we'll have to watch for the next couple of minutes to see if the market makers are stepping in here. I don't understand how Palantir can go any higher. The market cap is nuts. Never underestimate the market's desire to go a little nuts. The market enjoys going a little nutty and driving a stock to, 1,000 times earnings or something. There isn't a logical limit in the short term to how high a stock can go or to how low a stock can go. So we never buy cheap stocks and we never sell expensive stocks because those terms are meaningless. Benjamin, you hit the button. We're at 550 likes. Well, it's about a 15% approval rate. It's sort of the inverse Saddam Hussein popularity score. What's Putin's popularity score? How much does he get? Does he get 96% or something? I think he probably does. Little man with a bit of an inferiority complex. Stephanie, my speaking voice is a comfort to your animals. It's very kind of you to say, Stephanie. I'm not sure Winston agrees. He's like, would you zip it? But it was lovely actually getting home today and being greeted by all the kittens, and they all woke up and came out and rallied around, and very sweet. I know you're German, but the wit is definitely British. Yeah, I escaped just in time. So I was smuggled out on a boat when I was 15 and haven't really turned back. Great example is GME. Yeah, and there are many of those that make no logical sense, but what's happening here? But we'll just go up and up and up and up, and we can make a lot of money out of that. Winston's great. The kittens rallied. Yes, they are. It's very sweet. It's very sweet to have that many little creatures in the house greeting you. What else have we got here? GameStop, yeah, bouncing off a little bit here, but not doing all that much. Oh, CRWV, CoreWeave. It's becoming a bit of a retail meme thingy there. What would I say about that? I would just say it's probably a little extended. That doesn't mean it can't go higher, but it's probably a little extended. And of course, people are now going to say, I should have bought the IPO, because hindsight's a beautiful thing. But I generally don't buy IPOs. I don't own this one. I suppose after miserable earnings here where the volume popped up, I guess that was probably the moment to pay attention when it sort of exceeded that high there. But I'm saying that in hindsight because I have never looked at this. It's not on my tracker. It's a new stock, which I guess is just not on our list at all. But so, yeah, obviously people made lovely money there, but it doesn't really matter because there are lots of opportunities to make lots of money from. AMD just got rejected. Surprise, surprise. Pony. Where's my pony? Pony AI. Ooh, taking a beating. Yeah, it looks pretty ugly, right? Let's have a look at the... Well, it's still above the 50, at least. But yeah, I'm not particularly liking that setup. It's basically where it started, right? So not brilliant. Silver's off to the races. Absolutely. A lot of that whole space is off to the races. Rigetti will it break out today? It doesn't look like it wants to. No, it doesn't. It's the sort of not so pretty thing here is that hang on, let me get a line. That was our trend, right? We've now broken below that. We're still above the 50-day moving average line, which is something, but it's definitely not within that uptrend. So it's doing one of those Rigetti things. Graham still threatening you with the French Foreign Legion. If you don't hit the like button, I appreciate that, Graham. It's a little harsh still, but I do appreciate the sentiment. Why is QB2S so high? Well, textbook breakout here, textbook breakout there, right? That was one. That was the second one, and now it's consolidating up there at the top. So it's doing its thing, which is a good thing. So if you're in that, make sure you set a stop. Andrew wants a little bit of love and attention. What else we got there? We got Lyft. I don't really get Lyft. Seems to be losing most of its gains post-earnings, isn't it? But still, could be a second chance. It could be. I don't really go for Lyft. I just think if Uber isn't going up, why the heck would Lyft be going up? So let's see what happens on June 12th. Fox Gaming, you're back from the dead. Good morning to you. Coherent. Let's have a look. Well, it's still below the 150. There's no volume. So yeah, if it broke out above that with some decent volume, be interesting. But conditional orders, my friend. That's what I would say. Alrighty, my friends. Anything else? Do you think Gook Willow is better than Rigetti long term? I have no opinion on technology because what do I know about quantum computing? I know absolutely nothing about quantum computing. I know a thing or two about charts and how to make money. I know nothing about computers. Well, very little. I can turn one on. And that's about all I need to know. So I can watch my charts. So I wouldn't get too obsessed about technology because it changes and you don't know. And by the time you hear about it, it's probably too late. Has crowd taken a tumble? It certainly has after earnings, but let me see. I was half expecting it might bounce back a little, and it has. I mean, the low was down here at 445. We're up 3% from there. And the tumble was, you know, it was a tumble. It was a tumble, but we closed 4.6%, 5.6% down. It's not the greatest drop in the history, is it? So the volume wasn't pretty, but at least we bought back up. So I would, yeah, I think I didn't get stopped out, I don't think. So I'm still in this, I believe. Rigetti spaghetti, DG. Yeah, some of our gold stocks are doing well, right? Ooh, look at that. It's pretty, isn't it? Very pretty. If you want to learn about which gold stocks I'm buying and why, and actually just the whole bloody rule book, then come and join me on Saturday at felixfriends.org/webinar and actually learn how to pick great stocks. Who's going to join me on Saturday? Put a 1 in the chat and I'll know that you've signed up. It's free. It's for anybody who wants to actually make their money work for them smarter, and anybody who wants to actually retire. So let me know if you're joining us on Saturday, and I wish you a brilliant, beautiful, shiny, glorious, hopefully metal stock heavy day, and all the best. Take care, guys.